My name is Nancy Farrow, also known as Mama Lou, and I'm the founder of Epic Experience. Epic Experience mission is to empower adult cancer survivors and thrivers to live beyond cancer. I hope that as you listen to Campfires of Hope, Living Beyond Cancer, you find hope, healing, and empowerment. Through stories and education, we aim to guide those impacted by cancer, and more importantly, offer love and support to anyone out there who needs it. This is Beyond Cancer.
Father times dance through the night with the ghosts of America's spine. Well, he's still on our side, the family man's pride, and hopes we will rise once again.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail, aka Sunshine. Today we have two guests joining us around the campfire. We have Janna Jones and Eileen VanCleave. Thank you both so much for joining us. And if I'm not mistaken, you're both in California, but you're from different parts of California. Is that correct? We have Southern and Northern
Yes,
represented
I'm in
here.
Southern.
And Eileen is in Northern. Yep. All right. Well, let's start. We have a special episode today. I'm not going to give away the theme yet. So let's just start by having you both briefly introduce yourself. And I always like to ask for one fun fact. So, Janna, why don't you go first?
Hi, I'm Janna. Thank you so much for having me on today. I also have an alias. It's Starshine, and I earned that name going to an Epic Experience camp, February of 24. And it's because I'm a melanoma skin cancer survivor. But the good things are I'm a mother of 3 adult children. I have a wonderful, supportive husband who's going to love the topic today. And
I love that foreshadowing.
Yeah, right. And I am, fun fact would be that I have a Savannah cat, an F2 hybrid wild cat.
Very cool. Eileen.
Okay, I would say too that I'm fortunate to have a wonderful husband that I met when I was in elementary school. We have been married and life partners for over almost 38 years.
Wow.
More than that, so an excellent support person and truly the love of my life. We have one son that we share, one adult son who has been one of my biggest life teachers, and a wonderful support family. You know, I'm the regular run-of-the-mill daughter, sister, niece, you know, all of those things. And then kind of a closer view is, you know, I am a curious mind, an adventurer, a life learner, animal lover, and a work in progress who happens to be an early survivor of stage 3B, hormone positive, HER2 negative breast cancer, still in active treatment, and let it slow me down.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, today we are going to talk about something called compassion fatigue. So, Eileen, I'm going to ask you, where did that term come from? And what is the quote unquote official definition?
Okay, so from what I have learned, I work in healthcare, and so the learnings really came from that set and that environment, and it came to be in about 1992 from a historian, and then further defined by a researcher and a psychologist who described it as a state of exhaustion and dysfunction biologically, physiologically, and emotionally. From prolonged exposure to compassion stress. So caregiver. And it's been around as long as compassion has been around, just kind of the other side of that coin, and not really labeled until the 90s. So again, it was largely related to healthcare, and then it's spilling over into other industries and then into personal lives and home settings.
Yeah. So you learned about it through work, basically, through in a more okay. So Janna, how did you learn about the term?
Well, I was actually living my life. It's been 3 years since my diagnosis, 2 years since my treatment ended. And with all of the things going on post treatment, all the adverse reactions that I've had, and scans and repeats of tests and such, I just was living I was living the compassion fatigue with my husband. And
Mm.
Eileen and we met in a group called Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program. It was a program that taught us how to eat better, exercise, take care of our health, take care of our environment. And we've just stayed connected. And so I was on the Zoom with our group complaining about, I've been going to these scans, and my husband, he just doesn't seem like he wants to be there anymore. I'm just not getting comforted like I need anymore. And I Eileen just spoke up and said, no, this is a thing. This
Hmm.
is out there, and you're not alone.
Did it help, Jan? I'm going to start with you with this. Did it help in that moment to have a label for this thing that you had been experiencing?
Oh my goodness, yes. I was on that teetering board thinking, am I just making this up? Am I just being too needy? And that just confirmed that no, this is actually
Mm.
a valid feeling that I'm having. And it's hard, going through cancer, going through treatment, recovery. Survival is challenging. It's just exhausting as the survivor, but the caregiver, it's like there's a point where you just don't want to hear it. It's hard. You can't
Yeah.
help, and my husband, after talking to him, he says that he wants to be there. He's just exhausted. It's just really hard to get all caught up and then it's okay,
Yeah.
because that does happen a lot. You go in for the scans and you get all worked up, and then no, there's no cancer there. We're okay. We can live to the next
And you
scan.
can breathe. Right.
Yep.
And because you feel the exhaustion, were you able to understand his exhaustion?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
have a little empathy, I guess, for him at the same time where you're feeling it as well.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
first reaction was, what do you mean you're exhausted? I'm the one living with it.
True. Very
But
true. That's why I hesitated to ask about
yeah,
empathy, because it's true. You're the one going through it.
yeah. But truthfully, the caregivers go through it
Yeah,
just in a different fashion, right?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it definitely, after talking to Eileen, I went to my husband and I'm like, we need to talk about this. I
Hmm.
need a little bit more compassion. And if you don't want to come around to the appointments, I totally understand. If you want me to stop talking about these things for a little bit, I understand, but I need to talk about it. I
Yeah.
need some outlet to stay sane and healthy myself. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have Eileen in my group, and all of you at Epic also.
Yeah. Definitely. Eileen, did it help you to have a label? Well, and let me say first, were you like Jana experiencing this thing, not having a name for it, and then learning about it? Was that your experience as well?
Yeah, I had known about it and had that knowledge somewhere filed in my brain. And then I started noticing again about 2 years into the cancer journey, I started noticing my husband, who we've been each other's rocks for so long, kind of tapping out in different ways.
Hmm.
And that was just different. And so then I started flipping through my Rolodex, and I'm like, compassion fatigue, because the love is solid. It wasn't an issue or a question at all on that level, but I could just see that there was something different. And I wondered, how depleted he was becoming, if you will. And so I kind
Yeah.
of likened it to compassion fatigue, kind of along the same lines as like the grieving process, where
Hmm.
it's more fluid or very focused, and it kind of cycles through, is what I'm learning, because I'm 2 years 9 months out right now. And so it's almost like that 9 month interval that we've been having currently, where this started kind of showing up. And then not only for him, in my case, I began to feel it too.
Hmm.
Um, and that was unusual for me. A cancer diagnosis and the journey has been described to me as a severe blessing and a life in limbo. And both of those descriptions completely resonate with me, and I feel are super accurate descriptions. And at times it's discouraging, like Jenna was saying, and depleting for certain. Um, Even with my glass half full, I test out as an altruistic person, and I'm still kind of going through these sometimes what are new emotions for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not only just the caregiver or the professional care, a healthcare provider. It's literally the person. It could be the person as well that's going through it.
I hope you enjoy this episode of our Campfires of Hope podcast. Here at Epic Experience, we make it our goal to serve the cancer community through our collective programs, such as this podcast, our week-long adventure camps, regional programs across the country, and Thrive VR, a custom virtual reality experience benefiting patients in cancer centers. If you would like to be a part of our community of supporters, please go to epicexperience.org and click Donate. Thank you for listening to Campfires of Hope, Stories of Cancer. With gratitude, Wingman, also known as Colin Farrell, Executive Director of Epic Experience. Epic Experience is a registered 501c3 organization.
I would have never thought of it that way, having compassion fatigue almost for yourself, right? I mean, that's an interesting
Yeah.
concept.
I am sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
I am
Well, there's that too.
ready to
Exactly.
walk away.
Like sometimes it's just like, I'm exhausting.
Yeah.
You know,
That is
or at least my to-do list is. Yeah.
right. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So, given that official definition that you mentioned earlier, based on your personal experiences, I'm going to ask both of you this. Would you define compassion fatigue differently? Or would you would you give it some kind of nuance or anything like that? Eileen, go ahead.
I would say that I wouldn't necessarily define it differently. I would just add to it, to really include, instead of being so kind of locked into those few words, I would give it a little bit more depth. And because I think people come with whatever it is their life experiences are, and they show up differently, and they have various capacity. And so it's really kind of just laying out the diagnosis, or I'm sorry, the definition, and then kind of peeling back the onion a little bit, like who you are as an individual and where it's striking your core. And then also I would give it the definition, but then also kind of the antidote, like then what do you do with that label? And so it's more of a complete set of what it is and what to do about it.
Yeah. And we're going to get more into that in a minute. So I'm going to hold that thought. Janna, how would you personally define compassion fatigue? Is it different from the definition Eileen gave us?
It's the same. It is textbook, that's what it is. And the name says it all. I would just make it more simple that I'm just tired of being sick, in a perspective for yourself and for others. It's tiring, it's exhausting to love somebody so much and can't help them. So I'm just glad that we actually have something to say. This is what's going on. And like you said, Eileen, to have like an anecdote for it.
Yeah. It sounds like for both of you, if I did my maths correctly, both of you was about 2 years out, maybe a little over 2 years out where you started noticing this. Jenny, does that seem common among people you've talked to since this has come on your radar? Does that seem about the same amount of time? I mean, I know there's no definite, it happens here, but would you say that's about right?
For me, Eileen's the first one that I talked to that's confirmed that she had similar feelings. And this is just that one group that I got to talk to. I have a couple other groups, but here's where the problem lies. When you've been out of treatment for so long, you actually lose those core people. In the beginning, there's a lot of support, but then the further out you get, they they're not necessarily there because you don't need them that much as they think. But for me, I still need everybody and need to talk to everybody, but that's where the compassion fatigue begins, the further out you get.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like from what you said too, Jenna, it's in different ways. Like you may not need the person in the same way, but as you said earlier, that's a matter of discussion, right? Talking to your husband or whoever the person happens to be. Eileen, do you have anything to add to that in terms of how far out?
Yeah, I think that for Jenna and I, we were kind of around the same timeline, but looking at other people, I think cancer treatments in different areas have progressed so much that sometimes it's not a matter of, like for me, I'm going to end active treatment in August and then I'll go on maintenance for the next several years. So that's me. Some people, their cancer journey and their treatments go on forever. That's what's supporting.
Yeah.
And so I think people can show up
Yeah.
at any time. And that's why I say more fluid. And so also one other thing is even within our group, some people are more reserved in their sharing and others are more transparent. And so it's hard to really nail it down. Like when does somebody show up? Because I think it depends on how transparent you're living your life and how vulnerable you're choosing to be, which can be, hard. And we're all at, different spectrums with that. So
yeah, well, and it's interesting listening to you. I'm wondering if you have tips for the listener, like maybe somebody's not in touch with their feelings very well. What signs or symptoms might they notice in themselves or others that might trigger, oh, maybe this is what's going on? Is this compassion fatigue? Either of you can go ahead and jump in on this one. Eileen, go ahead.
I think for me, it was really, I became fixed on I like productivity. And so I became fixed on to-dos. Like I would just give myself more and more and more, regardless of how fatigued I was, and how empty my tank was. I would just keep going, going, going and doing that. And then finally I realized like, this is just not working. And I'm feeling this not only from the treatments and from the medications, but also because what I'm doing, I'm not taking time for self-care, which is so important to find your way, not just out, but through it. And I don't think it's a one and done either. So it's really, a work in progress to, I show up for appointments. And so it's literally for me calendaring my self-care time and being committed to that time as I am to my doctor's appointments or what meetings or whatever it is that I have going on. And so, yeah, that's how it is for me.
Yeah. How do you cope with it? I want to ask first how, like Janna, you've noticed it in your husband. How have you coped with that? I mean, I know you talked to him, but what other things have you done?
Well, initially, after hearing it, I was already in a sensitive state. And so I said, well, then I'll pull back and I won't talk about it. And every time, how are you? Are you okay? I'm good. I'm fine.
The classic, I'm fine.
Right. Yeah. And I even did it for myself. I took a step back and said, okay, I'm not going to hyper focus on what's going on. Yes, I've got a scan coming up. It's going to be fine, which is very challenging. But I definitely tried pulling back. I needed to not because I needed to express myself. I needed to let those feelings out because I kind of think that was the drive for the fatigue in the first place. You're going through the worry and the state and caring for each other and yourself, and it does get exhausting. But if you're not talking about your feelings behind it, if you're not emoting the process, acknowledging that you're stressed out, then you're going to continue to be stressed out. So I shifted to that, and I talked to him about that, and I said, okay, you don't have to come with me to the appointments, but I'm going to need somebody that's going to support me. And that's when I realized he told me he loves me. He does want to go. He needs to go because he's going through this. It's just
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah.
But after talking about it, labeling it, it's all kind of a lot easier because it's out there.
Yeah.
So now we're just kind of keeping the communication open as we go through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would that just completely resonated with me too. And it made me think that when my husband and I talked about him kind of pulling back a little bit, what he boiled it down to was really not meaning to pull back, but really his doing so was a way to protect his heart and his
Mm.
mental well-being in the face of this like relative uncertainty, right? We're all kind of dancing in limbo. Um, and so he too wants to be there and is there and all of those things, but really just needed to shut down for a while. And so just like my scheduling, I am helping him schedule because he wants to be there for me. And I'm like, no, you this or that, yes or no kind of thing. And so that he can open up his calendar a little bit to do some self-care himself, which is hard for him to do.
Yeah. Self-care is not, when you're in the midst of something like this, that's not always the top priority, right? It's getting through the scan, it's finding out the test results, it's scheduling that next doctor's appointment, it's doing all those things that have to be done.
Right.
And we often forget those the other things that we need to do for the rest of our body, our mind, our emotions.
Right.
What would you guys want people listening to know about compassion fatigue? Any advice that you have, any tips, um, again, for recognizing it in themselves or others? Eileen, I'll start with you this time.
I would say really just know that it's a thing and acknowledge it if it's happening, or if you can tell that it's happening, or somebody kind of acknowledges for you that they're seeing it, and not take it personally. um, and make a large investment in self-care, and that can 5 minutes here and there throughout the day, and pretty soon you've taken care of yourself for a good straight half an hour collectively. So and then also I would say share the load. So caregivers,
Mm,
especially my husband, and likely Janice as well, wants to be there and do everything and carry that weight for me, if you will. But other people want to do that too. And so it's really, then it was completely foreign, super uncomfortable for me to have to say, okay, Susie, you've been asking to do something. Might you do this, or are you open to do that? And the response has been tremendous. Really, it takes that hopelessness out of people um, that feel like I there's nothing I can do, and it serves a real purpose, and it's healing for everybody, I think. So yeah, just checking in with others, sharing the knowledge, and then really encouraging people to rest, repose, and rejuvenate whenever you can.
that is awesome. Jana?
Yeah, that's great. I say forgive yourself. Forgive
Mm,
yourself
Yeah.
for having those feelings. Hopefully you can be aware that that's what's going on. It took me to talk to Eileen to figure this out. So hopefully you have someone that's a sounding board that could, help you become aware. But forgive your
Mm,
people. You
yeah.
have to understand that that's just part of it, and it happens, and it's not going to last forever. I don't always have fatigue towards myself, compassionately, and neither does my husband. But I love what Eileen said about opening the door to others to help. I know my husband wants to be there all the time, but like she said, somebody else does, and I've done that with my. I go in for infusions still, for iron and magnesium, and trying to treat these adverse side effects. But my sons come with me,
Mm.
and my daughter's going to be coming with me because I have to go in every month. And so my husband is going to get a break, and others are going to get to help and work on their compassion as well. So
Have you guys found that in this situation where you're asking other people that your husbands have been relieved? Have they at all been miffed isn't the right word, but upset that you're actually looking to someone else? Like, what has the response been? I'm curious. Janna?
My husband is definitely does not want to miss anything. He definitely wants to be a part of everything. And, you know, he was there when I was going through treatment and my brain fog. I needed help, lots of
Mm-hmm.
help. I needed extra set of ears and eyes. And I mean, I still do, but he needs it for his sanity.
Yeah.
Truthfully, he is my person going through this with me 24/7 almost, you know? So, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't think he's so happy, but he's just going to have to because it will help.
exactly. Eileen?
At least they get a break.
Right.
Give me some good news.
Enjoy it for both of us. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes, and it takes practice, right? Because I think that I'm a caregiver, he's a caregiver, you know, it's just part of an innate part of you that you're having to kind of flip on its head sometimes. And so for him, I think that it has been helpful. It has lightened the load, but he does want to be there for everything too. So we look at it like um, uh, next month, I have a bone density scan. I'm like, what's the point of you being there? You know, it's just like, you know, that one of my friends could come with and enjoy that space, and that'll free you up because we travel quite far for my treatments and scans and doctor's appointments, etc. So so that does give him a chunk of time, and it also fulfills the obligation to my friends who really want to do something and who I was not allowing to do anything at first. One of my friends actually told me, she said, you know how when you hear that I'm needing a little extra help, you're always the first person to say, oh, I'll do that, I'll do that. And I said, yes. And she said, well, how does it make you feel? And I said, yes. And I said, awesome. And she said, and then when I ask you how I can help you and you say no, how do you think that makes me feel? And I'm like, oh gosh, you're such a good friend. And so right. So let me do something about that.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So that is such good insight. Thank you. I'm wondering if, for both of you, if there's anything I haven't specifically asked you about that you would want to share with someone listening related to compassion fatigue, whether it's related to you or to another person. Janna, let's go with you first.
The only thing that comes to mind is have a supportive community. If you don't have one, get one. Because I think this goes hand in hand with survivorship. So if it didn't pop up yet, it might.
Yeah. Yeah. Eileen?
I would just add that for people to know that they're not alone, this experience creeps in to the best of people that are doing the work, and it's not a reflection on yourself in any negative light. And so just take a step back and feel good about all that you have done and all that you're still doing and wanting to do. And then at the same time, come up with a plan that allows you to decompress and get some me time on the books. I'm a huge proponent of that now, you know, that we've started to practice that. It is really, really fulfilling for everyone. And then just work towards restoring balance. And I think that the person that you're caring for will pick up on that unspoken, nonverbal vibe. So it'll enrich everyone there.
I love that, what both of you have said, this whole idea of normalizing it, forgiving yourself, realizing you're not alone in this, that this is a thing, right? That people get tired when they're going through the treatments themselves and those who are going with you. So thank you both for putting a label on this and for sharing this. So I have one more question, very important. Marshmallows over a campfire, slow and steady, or flame and crispy? Janna?
Oh, I'm slow and steady. Definitely. And hey, I have a twist.
You do?
Lemon curd and sugar cookies.
And you mean if you're making a s'more, you use those as the, all right, that I have never heard of.
Lemon meringue. It
All
is
right.
mind-blowing.
Eileen, how about you?
No, I like it in the fire and crispy.
Burn it up, baby.
That's right.
Thank you both so much, Janna and Eileen, for joining me here today. I really appreciate your honesty, for being vulnerable, for putting a name to this thing so that people aren't alone.
Thank you
To
for
ev-
having
Yeah.
To
Thank you.
everyone who's listening, until the next time we gather around the campfire, keep living beyond cancer. Thank you for listening to this episode of Campfires of Hope, Living Beyond Cancer. For more information about Epic Experience and our programs, or to donate, please visit our website at epicexperience.org. Music for this podcast is provided by Moonshiner Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us so we can share our story with more people. Also, be sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts so you'll know when new episodes are released. We hope you come back and join us for our next episode.
Father time